Hi, I'm Scott Willison, owner of the Confluence Fly Shop in Bellingham, Washington. It is July here in Whatcom County, and we are going to tie a bass fly. One of my favorite things to do during the hot months when our lowland lakes kind of stop fishing real well. They get a little too warm to comfortably fish for the fish. Largemouth bass, on the other hand, are well within their element and very comfortable. In fact, as the weather heats up, the surface fishing can become fantastic. So we're going to tie a really easy popper today. This is just called the Easy Double Barrel Popper. We carry these in the shop. There's no need to be intimidated. I used to think you had to whittle your poppers out of balsa wood and cork and paint them, and it's a really meticulous process and still fun to do, but this is one of those flies you can crank out very quickly before a trip, and I think you're going to enjoy it. So anyway, in my vise I have a Surface Seducer popper hook. These are made by Flymen, and one of the distinct things about them is they've got a nice kink in the shank there. This kink is going to help prevent our popper from rolling around on the hook. I want these things to last and not start spinning and falling apart after a couple of fish. For our thread, I'm going to use a Chartreuse 140 Denier Ultra thread. We're going to start it just behind the eye and give ourselves a good thread underlayer here. This step is really important. If you don't get that shank covered in thread, that popper is going to slip and slide around, and fly is not going to last as long as it should. So now that I've got things on there, I want to give myself kind of a reference point as far as where to tie my materials. So I've already gone ahead and used a bodkin to poke a hole through this popper head. You can see one of the things you want to do is make sure to get it centered on the bodkin when you're poking that hole. There's a nice sort of line down the back there that that will really help to guide you as far as getting that situated. I've also glued in a pair of the Flymen Surface Seducer Dragon Eyes in 4mm. These are the tropic color. They make them in a bunch of different colors. You can use whatever you like, but I'm going to line up this popper roughly with the hook to give myself an idea of where my feathers and everything on the back are going to end. I want a little bit of that eye showing so it's easy to get your tippet through the eye of the hook. So we're going to go to right about there or so with our material. And if you exceed that a little bit and go too far forward, not really a big deal. Alright, so we got our thread base down. Go ahead and throw a half hitch in there. And then I'm going to wind my thread so it's just above the barb of the hook. And then we're going to put our tail in. So I have selected an olive and a yellow hackle. For this you can use saddle hackle, you can use neck hackle, but we are going to line up the yellow on the inside of the olive, and then I'm going to measure this up against the tail. I want my tail right about the length of the shank, maybe a little bit shorter. And then I'll just strip away the extra fibers that I don't need. And then I'm going to start by securing this on the near side of the hook. And then I'm just going to cut away some of these feather stems just to get them out of my way. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side of the hook now. Now notice your feathers have a natural curve to them. I'm lining them up right now so that the curb is going away from me or toward the camera. So when I get these legs tied in here, they're gonna kind of splay outward on the fly. So sometimes they're a little unruly, the stems want to twist on you. I could fix that by just a little bit of saliva or water or something to get those to cooperate a little bit better for tying in. I'm going to measure them against the tail portion that I've already tied in. And then we'll get those tied on the opposite side of the shank there. And part of why I leave these stems a little long is so that if one ends up being too short or shorter than the other, I could just pull on those stems and get them better aligned. But I'm pretty happy with how these guys ended up today. Maybe lengthen that one just a little bit, and then we can trim off any of our excess there. We'll get that secured in place. We're going to add a little bit of Chartreuse Krystal Flash. I'm going to cut off 3 or 4 strands. About twice the length of what I need them to be. And then we will center tie those over the top of the Hackle feather's tail. We'll fold the other half back, and then I'm going to trim these even with my other ones. So now that we've got our tail in place, we're going to go ahead and add a little bit of a collar here. I'm going to take another olive and another yellow feather here, and we will strip away some of the fibers from the base. I'm kind of looking for that point where the stem goes from being really thick to starting to thin up a little bit. I'm going to put the olive feather on top of the yellow feather, so I've got the curve facing down. And then we'll trim away the rest of the stem, and I'm going to tie these in butt first. And then I'm just going to take these feathers and wrap them both together. One turn after the other up to where my thread is here. And I'm just kind of preening those fibers back as I go. And then we're right where we want to be. I'm going to fold those feathers back and wrap over the base of them. And then we'll just trim away the excess. Now at this point, I am done with the tying portion of the fly. Bobbin needs some oil. It's squeaky today. So I just threw a couple of half hitches in there. I'm going to trim them out, and we'll be ready to proceed with the next step. So The next thing I'm going to do, I am going to use straight up just old-fashioned Gorilla Glue here for securing this popper to the body. What's great about the Gorilla Glue is that it actually expands as it cures. Sometimes when I've used it, that can be an issue, but on this fly, it's actually going to really help secure that popper body to the hook shank. So I've got a little tray of water here off camera, and this stuff sets up in water. So I'm going to go ahead and just sort of wet those thread wraps a little bit, and then we're going to take our popper off of the bodkin and just make sure it fits on there. Sometimes it takes some twisting and turning to get that in there, but I like to do this in advance so that I don't have a bunch of glue all over the place that's getting in my way or getting on my fingers. So now that I've done that, I know it's going to go on there. We'll add just a little bit more water, and then I'm going to take a toothpick and apply some of this Gorilla Glue. Now, knowing that this is going to expand, it really doesn't take much. I also like to kind of concentrate my Gorilla Glue up a little closer to the hook eye, knowing that when I put that popper body on there, it's going to expand and slide back, get pushed back with the popper a little bit. So all right, we are ready for our popper head. And we've got that on there. And you'll notice the way I have this pushed back, you can kind of see there the eye is coming out almost just past the head there. That's going to help when I'm on the water and it's getting dark and I can't see very well. That's going to help ensure that I can get my leader through that pretty well. Now, one last little step is we are going to add some legs to this fly. So I'm just going to take a bodkin, and at the rear of the fly, we'll take that bodkin and pierce it through the foam there. Once I've completed that step, we're going to find our bobbin threader. You can find all sorts of fancy leg pulling tools and things that'll do this for you also, but I found a regular bobbin threader works just fine. Now we're going to take our legs. For the legs today, I'm going to use just standard olive Grizzly barred Rainey's rubber legs here. You could use crazy legs or some sort of silicone legs. They all work. I find the rubber legs tend to be a little bit more durable. So I've cut a set of 3 of them off. And what I'm going to do is just tie an overhand knot in the legs here. And I'm going to try to get it roughly in the center. So there, I've got a little knot here. That knot is going to help jam these legs in the popper when I pull them through. So we'll slip those in the bobbin threader. Pull them through to the other side. I'm going to pull until I get that knot situated kind of in the middle or so of the popper. And at this point too, I'm going to check, make sure my head is where it wanted to be. was kind of rotating around with that popper, or with the bobbin threader in there. And then we'll pull our legs up. I like to measure them back and trim them about equal with the end of the collar. Some nice long legs there. If you get out and fish this thing and you find they're fouling with the hook, it's really easy to trim your legs down after that. But these long legs are going to give it a lot of action and wiggle on the water. And you've got a very simple popper pattern. Of course, if you want to get fancy, you can color these up with marking pens, permanent markers, and paint them up to look like a frog or anything else. That's always fun, but when I'm in a hurry and I just want some popping bugs to take out the next night on a bass lake, these are hard to beat for just ease of tying. There you have it, the easy double barrel popper. Great for large and smallmouth bass. You can tie these in smaller sizes for panfish as well. These popper heads come in a variety of sizes, and we carry several different colors at the shop. So please be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube videos, and if you need materials, you can get them at the Confluence Fly Shop in Bellingham, Washington. Thanks.